After last week's Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade, Democrats are calling for nationwide protests in which women twerk their asses and bare their breasts, making it impossible to tell the difference between Democrats and guys in strip clubs who are calling for the same thing. Congresswoman and curvy ignoramus Alexandria Occasional Cortex told a group of like-minded hysterics, quote, "We must immediately take to the streets in violent opposition to duly appointed justices making well-reasoned legal decisions that we disagree with on completely fatuous grounds. If abortion laws have to be made by our elected representatives, women all across this country will be cruelly forced to convince their fellow citizens by using reason. And if you think that's going to happen, you haven't been watching The View, or for that matter, my Instagram videos," unquote. President and venal houseplant Joe Biden also weighed in on the court's decision, saying, quote, "The question of Roe versus Wade really depends on whether you're in a boat or just splashing around the shallows with your pants rolled up. If these rowing and wading rights are denied to women, they'll be forced to swim out in the deeper waters, and it'll be like Jaws, where naked women get dragged back and forth by a mechanical shark until they're just a hand with a bunch of seaweed stuck on a lunch tray. Women must be allowed to have bathing suits, so at least before they're devoured by mechanical sharks, they can look like the hot girls in Sports Illustrated, although obviously it should be the old Sports Illustrated without the fat ones. Come on, man, what's that about?" Unquote. While conservatives argue that controversial moral issues should be debated by legislators and not decreed by unelected judges, leftists make arguments like this one.
My choice! 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 She's touching me. She's touching my choice.
That woman later changed her mind, however, after she was sprinkled with holy water. Then the demons came out of her and entered a herd of swine, who plunged into the sea, leaving Democrats with a minority in the House of Representatives. Other leftists say they will begin preparing their reasonable arguments just as soon as they're finished vandalizing women's counseling centers and threatening the lives of Supreme Court justices. One feminist lawmaker, for instance, Mimi Screamy, sometimes known as Screaming Mimi Screamy, or just Elizabeth Warren for short, said, quote, "If women can't get abortions, they've been denied equal rights with men. After all, men can go around killing unborn children all they want, and not one thing will happen to them except life imprisonment. Plus, men can have sex without getting pregnant, unless they're transgender, and then men can get pregnant. But now they can't get an abortion, so men are being denied equal rights with women who can't get an abortion either, and so have exactly the same rights as men. In conclusion, men shouldn't make laws about women's bodies unless they have women's bodies and aren't men, but are men, and therefore shouldn't make laws about their own bodies, which are women's," unquote. Already agitated by the prospect of having to use reasoned argument instead of emotionalism, riots, and threats of assassination, leftists were further disturbed by Supreme Court decisions allowing people to pray and carry guns. On Knucklehead Row, the op-ed page of the New York Times, a former newspaper, the editorial board of Knuckleheads wrote, quote, "We now face living in a country where people can freely worship God and defend themselves and elect representatives to make their laws. This is not who we are. We're dishonest, racist authoritarians who slaughter babies and shake our naked asses at children before butchering their sexual organs in service to an academic theory that makes no sense and has no scientific backing. When you think about it, we really should be in prison. Instead, we're living privileged lives in the freest country that has ever existed on earth and trying our best to get everyone to hate it. What the hell are we doing? God forgive us. We're so very, very sorry," unquote. All right, it's possible I made that editorial up, but I can dream, can't I? Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show. If you enjoy this content, and I know you do, like and subscribe to The Andrew Klavan Podcast.